At the beginning of the movie, we see Henry returning to Hong Kong after serving in the US military for several years, hoping to begin a career as a teacher. He visits his former school, Lokyi Secondary School. The principal points out that Henry has no teaching experience, however. After reviewing a recommendation letter from a high-ranking official, the principal decides to hire him. Before Henry leaves, the principal warns him that the class he has been assigned to teach is considered the worst in the school. On the morning of his first day, Henry enters the classroom and finds it in complete chaos. Some students are asleep, others are singing. Some are playing video games, and several are cooking ramen on portable stoves. Even after the teacher enters the room, the students completely ignore him and continue doing whatever they want. Henry attempts to get their attention, but the students pretend not to hear him. Henry gives up trying to stop the students and instead walks around the classroom, commenting on the activities they are already doing. He tells the students cooking ramen to eat less of it, because it contains too much sodium. Henry then approaches a boy named Zufa, who is playing the ukulele, and helps him improve his technique. He also warns a student playing video games about the harmful effects of staring at a screen all day. Once the students finally begin paying attention to him, Henry introduces himself and writes his name and phone number on the board. The students burst into laughter because of his terrible handwriting. A student even calls the number and tells him to leave the classroom, but Henry simply laughs it off. Soon after, the students ignore him again and return to the activities they were doing before he arrived. Finally losing patience, Henry uses a rubber band and a piece of chalk to trigger the classroom fire sprinkler. The students immediately scatter to avoid getting soaked. At last, Henry gains their full attention and officially welcomes them to his class. After school, a group of the 5 lowest-ranked students gathers in the sports equipment room to smoke. The group's leader, Jack, has a crush on a top-performing student from another class. When the others catch him staring at her photo, they start teasing him. The group also has an ongoing rivalry with the rich and spoiled students on the school's basketball team. The basketball team enters the supply room and, as usual, mocks Jack for being poor. Later, while the basketball team is practicing, Jack and his friends watch them from nearby. Jack throws a bottle onto the court, causing the team captain to trip and fall. The group bursts into laughter, but their behavior earns them detention from the school's English teacher, Miss Liang, to avoid detention. They play a prank on her and run away while she is busy cleaning her desk. Meanwhile, the school principal is under stress because the education board is planning to cut 20% of the school's annual funding. Members of the board arrive to tour the school and inspect how the funds are being used. At the same time, Henry walks into the classroom, where the students have set up a bucket of water as a prank. However, his reflexes are quicker than the falling bucket, allowing him to push it away before it hits him. The students who had been waiting to laugh at him are left stunned. Henry then asks Jack for his pack of cigarettes, already aware that he smokes. Curious about what Henry plans to do, Jack hands over the pack without hesitation. Henry asks Zufa to name the 3 main ingredients found in a cigarette. When Zufa answers correctly, Henry allows him to skip class for the rest of the day. The rest of the students immediately begin pounding on their tables, demanding the same reward. After the noise settles down, Henry hands each of them a cigarette and tells them to examine it. He understands that simply warning them about the health risks of smoking would not make them take the issue seriously. Instead of merely lecturing the students, Henry encourages them to discuss the effects of smoking and explains how tar builds up inside the lungs. For the first time, the students genuinely pay attention and become interested in what he is teaching. After the bell rings, Henry tells them to return the cigarettes, and the students reluctantly hand them back. Later that day in the cafeteria, the captain of the basketball team deliberately trips Bruce, one of Jack's friends. An argument quickly breaks out between the two groups and soon turns into a violent fight. Food and tables are thrown across the cafeteria, leaving the entire place destroyed. Afterward, Henry is informed that 5 students from his class have been temporarily suspended for starting the fight. He later finds Jack fighting another student in the hallway and steps in to stop them. When Henry tells him to calm down, Jack angrily accuses the school of being unfair because the rich students never receive any punishment. That evening after school, Henry reviews the files of the 5 students to learn more about their backgrounds. The first student is Zufa, the son of a Pakistani immigrant who constantly faces discrimination because of his race. Police officers in his neighborhood often accuse him of stealing, without evidence despite everything. Zufa dreams of becoming a musician. The second student is a girl named Dunan. Since the day she was born, her father has treated her like a disappointment because he always wanted a son. Throughout her life, Dunan has desperately tried to earn her father's respect. She even cut her hair short and played with toy cars in an attempt to behave more like a boy. Even so, her father continues to ignore her. While treating her younger brother like a prince, the next two students are brothers named Bruce and Chris. When they were children, their mother ran away with another man, which caused their father to become an alcoholic. As they grew older, the brothers had no one but each other to depend on. Bruce escaped from reality by becoming addicted to video games, while Chris worked hard at a grocery store to support the family financially. Lastly, Henry is unable to find any information about Jack's family background. In the following scene, we see Jack working as a waiter at a restaurant. An MMA gambler named John Ying arrives there with his business partners. While John Ying is distracted, Jack secretly steals his expensive lighter, but he is quickly caught. John Ying's men beat him up while checking his ID after learning that Jack is still a student. John Ying gives him some money and offers him a job delivering food. Meanwhile, Henry visits Zufa's home and sees him being chased by his father and several other men after stealing a ticket at first. Henry helps Zufa escape, but after discovering the real reason he is being chased, he sides with the father instead. Later, Henry and Zufa spend time together near a bridge. To encourage Zufa to pursue his dreams without fear, Henry joins a street band and starts singing in front of the crowd. A few moments later, Zufa gathers the courage to join him and performs in public for the first time since being bullied at school years earlier. At the same time, Bruce and Chris's father returns home drunk as usual and orders them to buy him more beer from the store. When the brothers refuse, he angrily tells them to get out of the house. The following day, Henry meets their father and convinces him to enter rehab for the sake of his sons. Meanwhile, Denon's father gives her a bag of makeup products and tells her to behave more like a girl. Denon becomes furious because he has spent her entire life making her feel inadequate. Out of anger, she puts makeup on her younger brother and sneaks out of the house with the car keys. Just as she is about to drive away in her father's car, Henry arrives and stops her in time. He warns her that driving without a license is illegal and offers her a different solution instead. After that, Henry takes Denon to a go-kart racing track. He also invites her father and encourages them to compete against each other. Neither of them holds back during the race, and their rivalry eventually sends both go-karts off the track. Suddenly, another vehicle crashes toward Denon's go-kart, but she manages to avoid the impact just in time, not realizing that she survived. Her father breaks down in tears. At that moment, Dunham finally understands that her father truly loves her, and she hugs him emotionally. The next day at school, Bruce and Chris, along with several classmates, are taken to a rehabilitation center to interview a recovering alcoholic. To their shock, the man they are assigned to interview is their own father. The students questions him how he became addicted to alcohol. He explains that he deeply loved his wife, but she abandoned him during the lowest point of his life. After that, he turned to alcohol and neglected the fact that he still had two sons depending on him. Although he never reveals that Bruce and Chris are his children, he sincerely apologizes to them. By the end of the interview, both brothers are left in tears. Meanwhile, Jack has started working for the MMA gambler John Ying. John Ying offers him a large amount of money to secretly drug a fighter's drink before the next match. Jack hesitates at first, but is eventually pressured into accepting the offer. On the day of the fight, John Ying sponsors one fighter while secretly betting money on his defeat. Jack slips the drugs into the fighter's drink, but is caught in the act before he can expose John Ying. The men brutally beat him and lock him inside a storage locker. A short time later, Henry arrives at the arena and asks the fighters if they have seen his student. The men tell him to leave, but Jack begins shouting for help from inside the locker. After realizing that Jack is being held captive, Henry attacks the men and quickly overpowers them. When the fighters step in to stop him, the situation becomes even more intense. But Henry skillfully dodges their attacks in the end. He knocks out their strongest fighter, who was supposed to compete only minutes later. In the following scene, Henry is taken to the hospital to receive treatment for his injuries. Jack tries to expose John Ying's involvement, but he is immediately silenced. News of the incident spreads across television, and Henry becomes famous as the teacher who defeated a professional fighter to protect his student. As a result, his popularity at school rises dramatically. and the students begin to respect him. Unlike before, they now stand up and welcome him when he enters the classroom. A flashback later reveals that Henry himself used to be a troublemaker during his school days. At one school event, he even threw water balloons at a student who was performing piano for the parents. Later, Henry got into a fight with the same student and broke his hand. Because of the incident, he was suspended from school and eventually moved to the United States. From that day on, the students begin paying attention in Henry's class and work hard to prepare for the upcoming college entrance exam. Everyone shows improvement except for Bruce, who has developed an addiction to pills. It is revealed that while Chris escaped from his family problems through video games, Bruce turned to drugs instead. Because he is unable to focus, he performs terribly on the mock entrance exam. Henry promises to help him, but Bruce falls deeper into depression as time passes. Eventually, he jumps from the balcony of his apartment building. He is rushed to the hospital and falls into a coma. The media distorts the story and blames both the school and Henry for Bruce's suicide attempt. Officials from the education board question Henry and decide to revoke his teaching license. As Henry packs his belongings and leaves the school, the students run after him, begging him to stay, although devastated by his departure. They realize that the best way to honor him is by succeeding on their upcoming exam. From that moment on, they study even harder, to prove to the education board that Henry is truly a great teacher. On the day of the exam, Jack and the rest of the class receive a message from Henry, asking them to gather at the school an hour before the test begins. However, once the students arrive, they discover that the message was actually part of John Ying's plan to trap them inside the school so they would miss the exam. He does this to take revenge on Henry. A short time later, Henry arrives at the school and uncovers John Ying's scheme. He frees the students and fights John Ying's men to protect them from harm, while the students rush toward the examination hall. Henry stays behind to confront John Ying himself. During their one-on-one fight, John Ying reveals that he was the same boy Henry humiliated with water balloons years earlier because Henry broke his arm during their fight. John Ying was unable to participate in an important piano competition. Since that day, he has never touched a piano again, and has blamed Henry for destroying his dream. Henry tries to reason with him, but John Ying attacks once more. The two struggle over a knife during the fight. In the end, Henry gains the opportunity to kill John Ying, but chooses not to instead. He apologizes sincerely for his actions in the past and walks away. Meanwhile, the students arrive at the examination hall just in time and successfully complete the test. A few weeks later, the results reveal that they all passed with excellent scores. John Ying also begins playing the piano again, although he still has a long way to go before reaching his former level. Bruce recovers from his condition and promises to take the entrance exam the following year. The principal is overjoyed when the education board rewards the school with an additional 20% in funding because of the students' outstanding performance. In the final scene, Henry returns to teaching and once again uses the fire sprinkler trick on a new class of unruly students.